Today is going to be a fun video. Before I get started, guys, let's quickly take a moment to say rest in peace to the Blackpool fan at the weekend who tragically lost his life. I believe the story is after some hooliganism happened outside a pub in Blackpool after their 0-0 draw with Burnley. I think it's Tony Johnson, I think that's the name. Please, apologies in advance if I'm wrong there, but either way, I'm pretty sure we can all echo the sentiments of rest in peace. No one should come to a football match and not come home. And to anyone who's thinking of trying to go to football for a scrap, just go home. Just be responsible. What good does that do? Because if anything, it just means that the person who killed him or contributed to killing him, their life's now ruined, and Tony's lost his life, unfortunately. So remember to be responsible, please. It should go without saying, but unfortunately, it doesn't at this point. But rest in peace, my friend. Hopefully you're well. Anyway, as you can see by the title, this is just afterthoughts, the further thoughts, whatever you want to say it, from Sunderland versus Stoke at the weekend. I'm hoping this is the last time I'm going to discuss this fixture, but I just want to get through a few points that have been in my head over the last couple of days since the game. And yeah, let's just get to it. Let's just quickly talk about the game itself before other factors. Sunderland were dreadful. Absolutely dreadful. First half, I didn't think we were terrible, but I didn't think Stoke were any better. Let's quickly gloss over the referee thing, because the referee definitely did contribute in the first half, and certainly to Stoke's first goal. But it's just a travesty that was allowed to happen. But at the same time, Sunderland's defending was terrible. As I keep saying repeatedly, though, and I've said it on Mackham in the Middle podcast, I've said it on this channel, that unless the standard improves, we're going to keep seeing stuff like this, and we have to keep mentioning the referees. I'm getting sick of mentioning it. I know there'll be people watching that are sick of me talking about the referees, but unfortunately, I can't gloss over it because they're that terrible. And it's not just us. There'll be clubs, I bet you, in the relegation battle this season that there'll be a big controversial decision that'll contribute to them getting relegated. Not totally responsible, but will contribute to it all the same. But yeah, second half in particular, Sunderland were just dreadful. And I'm usually one that tends to not be too pleased when fans leave a game, when we're either drawing a game, narrowly winning or getting beat, because I feel that's when the team needs you. However, on Saturday, I don't blame them one single bit, because that was absolutely atrocious. What was going off in the background there? That was absolutely atrocious on every level, and I think that the players owe us big time on Sunday when we go to Norwich, even if we don't get anything, but to put in a performance that shows fight and character. To be fair to the players' mind, that's the first time I can say that this season where I've questioned their attitude and desire to win the game, because for the most part this season they have shown that. But they still nevertheless need to, and I don't care how young they are, just because you're a younger player doesn't mean you can't avoid criticism, it doesn't mean you can't avoid responsibility, because that's something that people always bang on about with the recruitment team, and I'll get to the recruitment team in a little bit. But there you go. Right. Alex Neil. Let's go on to Alex Neil, because my opinion on Alex Neil when he left Sunderland largely will always remain my opinion. I think the whole constant, subtly condemning Nathan Broadhead in the press for not returning and not being up for the fight, and then showing he's not up for the fight himself by choosing to walk away later, by saying that the players he's got at Sunderland have such togetherness, and then he walks out on that same group. And then, basically go and watch Jam Sani's video, the match preview against Stoke, because the first 4 minutes of that cover my basic feelings towards the man. And you can say, far from being vindicated on Saturday in his decision to leave with experience and all that, at the end of the day, he had something really good going here. And he walked out on a club that had players that gave him everything, both last and this season. And he walked away from a lot of fans who adored him. And, and let's get something straight. When people say to me, it's just a job to Alex Neil, they don't see it the same way they do. Yes, I get that, but I'm getting rather fed up of that being brought up, because that doesn't excuse the classless and lack of respect way in which he left the club. For me, he didn't have to go. He can claim that he did, but I don't think he did. I think that he had something really good there, and he walked away from it for that. And you can say, look, money... And another quick thing I'll mention, when people say, if I was leaving the employment I've got, and go to another workplace that's offering me twice as much money or 3 times, you'd take it. And I get that argument in principle, but the difference is I've got to work to earn a living, whereas Alex Neil doesn't really have to. The difference is football is not like a lot of other jobs. A lot of that is much more dependent on a relationship between your players and a relationship with the fans. It's like the players and the management and the head coaches are custodians of a football club, where it matters to thousands upon thousands of people. So to them, it might be a job, but they've got to appreciate that from our perspective, it's a lot more than that. And just because it's a job doesn't mean you can't have passion. It doesn't mean you can't have respect. It doesn't mean you can't have class if you choose to go somewhere else. And in particular, some of those comments that Alex Neil made, which I was hesitant to touch upon before the game because I didn't want that to play into his hands. But now it doesn't really matter. But when he come out on 2 separate interviews, he comes out and says it's frustrating and disappointing that I'm being played the villain and a lot of untrue things have been said about me, saying I won't cry, which evidence to me that he is bothered about what we're saying about him, and then saying, look, other people have their prerogatives, and you can say, and he said, when you leave on fans' terms, when you get sacked, in other words, it's fine, but it's a travesty when you leave on your own terms. No, Alex, the reason you're portrayed as the villain and the reason that we have the opinion of you is because you left 24 hours before a huge game at the end of the transfer window when you yourself signed up for those terms. As to what the recruitment model was going to be, and you had to have known that in, say, at the start of July or mid or end July at latest, that we weren't going to sign players like the way that you wanted. But yet you did. But you didn't walk away then. You didn't walk away after Wembley. You chose to wait until the end of the window and 24 hours before the Norwich game to walk out on the club, to walk out on the players, and to walk out on the fans. And essentially, the main reason would have been for a payday. And I get that he wants more money, fair enough, everyone wants to earn as much as they can, but there's a way you go about things, and for me, he just didn't show any class or respect. That's why a lot of people feel the way they do towards you, mate, and that's why, and I know you're not going to be watching this, but I don't care. This is my video, my opinions, and I'm getting my thoughts out there. For me, I'm not going to lie, people don't realise this, and this is going to sound very sad and pathetic, but for me, I was affected very badly mentally when he left, and he caused that by walking away. And for me, I will never forgive him for that. He won't care, nor will he, but, and he'll have enjoyed Saturday, and fair enough. But for me, my opinion of him will always remain the same. If he wanted to move closer, if it was in a situation like Yunus Kabul 7 years ago, when he left to go to Watford, but to be nearer to his family, when I think there was something wrong with one of his family members at the time, he basically, the story came out that it was about family for him, and that's fair enough. And if Alex Neil came out and said something like that, then I would understand it a lot more. But the fact he hasn't once mentioned it until recently suggests to me that that's not the case. So I think Alex Neil has to be still given a lot of responsibility and accountability for the way he chose to walk away, and he made this bed and now he's got to sleep in it. If he's frustrated about it, tough luck, he shouldn't have left in the first place. Anyway, on a quick few notes before I wrap this video up. The next point is Tony Mowbray. Now, I said in the reaction video that I would look to change head coach next season if the next 11 games we have a very bad drop-off, like what Blackburn fans unfortunately warned us about. Now, I'll make this clear. Tony Mowbray has had his hands tied on a number of things. He's had Ross Stewart out twice for basically 3.5-month-long injuries, really, if you look about it. He had Ellis Sims, and to be fair, this applies to Speakman and Harvey as well, had Ellis Sims called out from under our noses at Everton, which is still a baffling decision, really. From Everton's perspective, maybe not, but it's still, from his footballing perspective, it's a baffling decision. He's had a lot of that go against him. He's had to play 2 months without a forward. He's replaced a head coach that chose to walk away that nobody wanted to leave. And at the end of the day, he has had a lot go wrong with him. My issue is, and one of the big things is, on Saturday, the team selection for me was questionable. And I just don't think it was... I just think that Tony Mowbray didn't do himself any favours by playing Dan Neil and Alex Pritchard as a midfield 2 in the game against Stoke. And for me, there was a distinct lack of physicality there, and it showed. It showed. And the last few games, we've struggled against physicality. Now, I like Tony Mowbray a lot, don't get me wrong, I absolutely do like him a lot, and I really hope he proves us wrong. But if the next 11 games we have a big drop-off in performances and results, then for me I would look to change ahead of next season, only because next season for me we have to be pushing towards the playoffs at least. Because this season was a free hit for a lot of people as long as we weren't in a relegation battle. I still think so far we've had a decent season, to be fair to the players and to Mowbray, but next season will not be a free hit, and I think that we can't afford a drop-off like this if we're wanting to try and push for promotion. Because a club the size of Sunderland, and to be honest, bore off if you're getting sick of hearing this, because the fact of the matter is Sunderland are a huge club, and the fact that people are offended by it so much seems to back that up, in my opinion. Eventually, in the next couple of years, we have to be looking at getting back to the Premier League where the club needs to be in. And the last thing I'll mention is the recruitment model. Now, I've seen a few people on podcasts, on YouTubers, questioning the model a little bit. Now, I think where you can question the model, and Christian Speakman in particular, is not going for a couple of more experienced players. Even if you don't buy them, go for the free agent market, because I think there have been players there that we could have gone for in the summer in particular. and obviously not getting strikers permanently in the last couple of windows. I think they're criticism-worthy things. However, if you're looking at it nuancedly, that's not even a word, but if you're looking at it nuanced, Speakman and Harvey in general, in terms of recruitment, have been outstanding for the most part, or at the very least, very, very good since they've come in. I don't think it's very fair if you grade their rate now. If you rate them out of 10, I think anything lower than a 7 isn't fair. But there you go. I think, there are things they can improve on. But the way I look at it is, I like the fact that we're getting down this model now, because people can dismiss dismiss the sustainability side of things. No, for me, you've got to make sure you are a sustainable asset, and then better things will come from it in the future. When we're on a more financial footing, remember, we don't have parachute payments anymore, and we haven't had them for the last 3 years. This makes sure that if we're on a stable financial footing, then it means in the future we can be a better prospect and we can start to strive for more things and take risks without hindering ourselves financially. Now, for me, because I can see ahead in the next few years, this will benefit us, I believe. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But for me, I do believe this will benefit us in the future. And there's a few things they can get more right, but I think on the whole, they've done a very good job. Off the pitch, admin side of things has been particularly terrible. I mean, there's the whole fiasco with the digital season tickets. For me personally, as long as the technology works, I'm not too fussed by it. But there'll be a lot of people that are turned away from the club because of this decision. But at the same time, we have to acknowledge that we are going towards this route now. I just feel an option of physical and digital season tickets should have been there, really. But as far as the model goes, I think if you look at what Brentford's doing now, they were doing this exact same thing a few years ago, and look where they are now. Brighton, similar to that, and look where they both are now. They're both pushing for European places in the Premier League, which for me is where Sunderland belong in the football pyramid, pushing for European football in the Prem and going to win the Carabao and FA Cups. But that's some way off yet. So I think long term, this model will work. Obviously, the challenge will come when we sell some of the key players and see what investment comes into the squad. But for me, I think there's a lot more right with this model than what's wrong with it. And there you go. It's like proof Alex Neil didn't really buy into it and didn't see the value in it, whereas I know coaches out there will these days. But anyway, that's my thoughts on that. I know I've rambled on quite a bit here, but these were thoughts that were gathering in my head over the last few days, and I wanted to try and express them in what I hoped was an articulate way. The next time you'll see us, of course, unless anything happens in the future. Final thing I will say, with Speakman and Harvey, they deserve all the criticism they get if in the summer they don't get at least 2 strikers, one of which at least has to be a permanent deal, and then that's if Stewart stays. And if Ross Stewart goes, then it's got to be 3 strikers, at least 2 of them have to be permanent. If they don't rectify that in the summer, then they deserve a lot of criticism for that, because that's not good enough. But anyway, I'll love you and leave you there, guys. From the analytics, I think it's 58% of people, last time I checked, are not subscribed. So if you think I've earned a subscription from you, hit the like button and subscribe. That would mean a lot. Trying to get to 5,000, but let's even get past 4,300, because I've been stuck below it for a while. Unless something happens in the next few days, guys, I will see you for the Norwich game. But otherwise, rest in peace, Tony. Take care, everybody. Love you lots, and I'll see you all later.